So since I wasn't able to give you guys a shot, at least the last one at camp, well, here is what camp looked like. Basically, you can take a look here. You got the trailer set up with Rizzo's Jeep there in the background, and this is how we were rolling. It was really cool to be up there, be away from things for a little while. I definitely enjoyed the time that we were there, and then we had to come back, and coming back was really interesting. Actually, coming back one from the last time I've filmed, where I shot that the last one up there on site, and as I was going back to camp at the end of that day, so it was about 2:30 in the afternoon. I shot that at about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and as I'm rolling back, there's a lot of pounding on the bottom of my Jeep as I'm going over the washboard roads. And when I got back to camp, I climbed underneath it, and one of the bolts holding the transmission in place. So there's where the transmission and the transfer case meet together. There is an adapter there which bolts to the cross member. Well, one of those bolts snapped. Well, I had to figure out what I was going to do there. So I started looking over all the Jeeps to find, is there another one of those bolts on one of these Jeeps that's not critical? Turns out all of them are critical. So my daughter Isabel was coming up, so I called her and told her what I needed. I needed a grade 8 bolt, 3/8 inch, coarse thread, 1 inch long. So I gave her the full description. And then as I finished my text, and we had really bad signal there, so I had to walk around and try and get the text out. I got the text out to her. I got thinking later, I should have described it as a gold-colored bolt, not a silver bolt, because I don't want a grade 5. I need a hardened grade 8. It has to do with its strength. Well, she showed up late that night with all the stuff that I requested, and then the bolts happen to be these galvanized bolts you use for like your fence. If you got like a chain link fence, you need a bolt the gate to it or a bracket to it. That was what the bolt was. I'm like, Isabel, where did you get this? She goes, well, I talked to one of the Lowe's guys, and this is what they gave me. They said, did you show them the description, a grade 8? He goes, yeah. Then it hit me. It's like, he made a thought that I was saying a gate bolt. So my failure was I didn't describe it completely to somebody who doesn't know what grade 8 is. I mean, it's not her fault. I could have described further. That was my fault. So if anybody's to blame, it was that. Then when she went to somebody who bore the name tag, had the Lowe's name tag, who was supposed to know, and asked him for what she needed and described what she needed, unfortunately, she went to somebody who didn't know in reality, even though he was supposed to. So it's kind of like, in my world, you can talk to any lender. They may have an NMLS ID. They may say mortgage loan originator next to their name. They have their website for the banking, but they don't understand real estate investments. They can't help you to figure something out. You could give them a description. I have a lot of calls where people call me up and they say, I talked to my bank about the delayed financing, and they had no idea what that was. I talked to them about the BRRRR strategy, had no idea what that was. I mentioned turnkey, and they're like, oh, we can't do turnkey when the sellers are still involved. They don't understand. So you don't talk to a guy that doesn't know anything about grade 8 bolts and tell him I need a grade 8 bolt. He's going to give you the wrong one. He's just looking for a bolt. People don't understand what their use is. So I had to go down into Payson, about a 50 minute drive, and bought a bunch of tools. I got to thinking, maybe there's something more going on there than what I think. It might not have been a bolt that just fell out. And that's when I discovered that it broke off, was when I got back. And I bought a bunch of stuff just in case I had to drill it out and retap that area, to retap new threads into it for a larger bolt. And I tore everything apart and found that the bolt was broke off in there. I had to drill it out, back it out, and perform surgery. It took me about an hour and a half. It was ready to go. And then we went on the trail, and then went 4-wheeling. It was a great weekend. Then I come home. And as I'm rolling back, we're getting news of, wildfires on both sides of the valley. On top of that, we've got some civil unrest going on. I didn't realize that there was all these things happening with all the riots across the country. I had no idea. And so then I come back to my son-in-law he just got out of the Army, and now he's with the National Guard, and he was deployed. They put him out. And he left on Saturday, and he's not coming home till this next Saturday. So Isabel, my daughter, is staying with us for right now, but ultimately, he's staying on site wherever he is in the state, trying to deal with this. So I knew about the whole situation that had happened in Minneapolis. I didn't realize the domino effect till I got back. And then you start to see, wow, we're dealing with curfews, we're dealing with riots. Understandable why people would protest. There's definitely something that makes sense to stand up and talk about. I cannot get behind the looting. I can't get behind the rioting piece whatsoever. When you think about the job that is taken by a police officer, what they choose to do, that's a tough job, man. I get frustrated with things, and I'm not dealing with people at their worst. So can you imagine if you're a person whose job is for 8-10 hours a day to deal with people in the worst scenario of their life? It may be just getting pulled over. It could be the worst part of their day, right? Or it could be even, I mean, we know that there's a lot worse situations, just getting pulled over in a traffic accident or a traffic ticket or whatever, that you're dealing with people at their worst. How does not that not taint you? Now, we definitely know that the cliche is right. There's some people that went through high school getting their ass kicked, so now they're going to show the world, I'm going to get a badge, I'm going to be the man. But I'm not saying that's everybody. That's probably a very, 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 very small fraction of a percent of those that are out there. It's very, very sad what happened. Very, very frustrating what happened. It's angering what happened. What's angering most is there's going to be some that are going to do things wrong. They're just going to be. But for others to be around and not do something about it, that's the real frustrating thing about it. We got to stand up. We got to point out when things are wrong. Absolutely have to have a voice, point out when it's wrong, and hopefully encourage people to be the better person than they are right now, to keep improving who they are. But we'll see how this all rolls out. Very, very interesting situation that we're dealing with today. I'm curious to see how the world is going to react to everything. So what's interesting, though, is how the markets are reacting. Stocks are up, which I'm really not understanding myself. In a situation like today, we would probably imagine stocks to take a beating. But it is what it is. Stocks, for some reason, are finding reasons to be encouraged. And so we're looking at the mortgage-backed securities here, and look where we're at right now. Interestingly enough, we broke above the trend lines yesterday and today, where we were getting squeezed in on Friday when I shot that from the hills. Now we're breaking out on the 3.5, which is not exactly what's happening with the 4.0. 4.0 is still being squeezed, so the trades are still happening in between trend lines on the 4.0. So we're going to see where that goes. So if the 3.0 is 3.5 is a leading indicator of what's going to happen with the 4.0, maybe it's going to get squeezed above this, and then we're going to be floating some of these higher points, potentially see some improvement in the rates. But where we sit in this whole channel up to this point is still phenomenal, guys. For us to be holding this point this long is really, really awesome. So one thing we do still see is people doing when you're putting 20% down, you're still going to see points in there. You're still going to see somewhere in the fours with points being charged. You're 25% down. We're not seeing that, but you got to do the numbers, weigh it all out, make sure it makes sense for you and your business. And let's do a little bit of a zoom in here and take a look at what's going to happen here. We are literally getting sandwiched between these two trend lines. Pretty interesting. So you have 30-day moving average and the 10-day moving average, squeezing them together, and we'll see where that ends up going from here. But it's encouraging knowing that the 3.5 is doing what it's doing. So those in the 25% down range, we can start seeing a little bit more improvement there, because that's where the 25% down is starting to experience a 3.5 coupon being a player in that a little bit more. And if you're putting money into it, buying down the rate, you're going to we'll see what the 3.0 is doing right now. That might also be doing better, because if it's improving, which it is, it's improving as well, a little bit, not a ton, a little bit. You can see where it's down for the day, but it's between the trend line and resistance line. So it may be a little bit better. Actually, it's going to be probably about where it was yesterday, just because we're at it's lower than where our high was yesterday. So we'll see how that all plays out as well. A lot of crazy times out there, folks. I pray everybody is safe and that you're keeping your family close, and just think before you act in any respect. With your business and with life. Life right now is uncertain every time we walk out the door right now. So just be calculated in what you choose to do. Take this as a great learning opportunity, and everything that we're getting in the market today, it's all wild stuff. The economy, the state of geopolitics, the state of just humans right now. It's an interesting time to live in. So absorb everything you can from it and learn from it and use it to apply those things in the future, because there's got to be some sort of lesson we're going to get out of this that we can apply later to all of our benefit. So hope you have a really good day, and we'll be talking again real soon.